Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order.
Let's rise for the flag salute.
Let's rise for the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Okay,
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This special meeting was called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law. Notice of this meeting were faxed to the Atlantic County Record, Atlantic City Press, Camden Courier, and Star Ledger on December the 22nd, 2022. In addition, copies of notices were posted on the bulletin board, and the notice was published in the Atlantic City Press on 12/24/2022. Notices on the bulletin board have remained continuously posted. Proper notice having been given, the municipal clerk is directed to include this statement in the minutes of the meeting. Minutes of the meeting should also reflect the purpose. Mr. Cheek? Ms. Hopkins?
Here.
Mrs. Link?
Here,
Mr. Patali?
Here.
Mayor Kane? Okay, the next item on the agenda is appointment of an acting township administrator through January the 31st, 2023.
I make a motion to table this.
Mr. Patali makes a motion to table.
I second.
Ms. Hopkins? Seconds?
just, all right.
What did she say? Do you want me to call a roll on that?
Yeah, go ahead, call the roll on that.
All
I'm very
right.
confused.
Okay.
Why would you call it to table
Mr.
that?
Patali made a motion to table. I was going to just ask for clarification. Is that to table until when?
When?
Table until our next meeting.
It's tabled, and the motion and the second is to table till January 3rd.
But I would like to add in my table that I think that,
I think, I'm sorry, Madam, I don't mean
We
to
don't-
interrupt, but if we're going to do a vote, I think it needs to be clear on what the vote is. We have a first
Yeah.
and a second.
The motion is to table. I don't know of anything about adding to a table. I think that
Can't
has
have
to be
commentary in the
separate.
midst of a vote,
okay,
just for
So
clarity for the
the
record.
motion is to table until the next meeting, which is January the 3rd. Ms. Hopkins?
yes.
Mrs. Link?
No.
Mr. Patali?
Yes.
2 yes, 1 no. The motion is tabled until January the 3rd.
Now can I comment?
Does that conclude our,
No,
meeting?
Judy, we always have to have a public comment, plus Ms. Hopkins wants to say something.
okay.
Last year at this time, we were put into a position where we were voting someone in that was not qualified for the position. And at that time, committee said, look, change the position description, and then the person could qualify. But it was to remove educational requirements. So I find myself, almost a year to the date, sitting in here, and I'm getting ready to exit. I'm getting on a plane in 20 minutes, and we're back to square one. We're not considering 2 women that are capable, educated, and able to do the job. We're bypassing both of them for another gentleman. I have an issue with that, and I want to make it a point in this meeting that when we table it till January 3rd, that on January 3rd, we give all the candidates consideration and not just the person that we've tried to be put in the position for the last 5 attempts. That's it.
I'd like to make a comment. The candidate that we were considering has a plethora of knowledge of our municipality, would have been very qualified, and it was only a temporary one. So that is my opinion,
It's
and I
a,
do not understand why we tabled this.
it's a slippery slope when we start to bend our job descriptions, especially for the lead position of a $27 million operation. I don't have a problem. We're right where we were last year. If we're going
already
to
did
change the
that.
labor description, vote to change the labor description and put the gentleman in, I'm fine. But I'm also a little bit perturbed that we are not considering two other female candidates with this. That bothers me. That troubles me that we've not had female leadership in the administrative role. That troubles me.
Let me speak up one more time if I may, and I don't mean to interrupt. If we're going to be discussing specific candidates, I think there's certain notice requirements that need to be met.
Only if we're in executive session. We're not in executive session. It's open.
Okay.
Well, I've said my piece. Are we done?
Now we have to open to the public.
Open to the public then.
Let's open to the public. Are there anyone from the public wants to
Yes,
speak?
we're getting the microphone.
Thank you. I couldn't hear, was there mention of a name for the interim?
No, sir.
Nope.
There was not? Okay, I'm sorry. I would only, I'm not sure what's really going on here, okay? I would hope, given the township's track record of an administrator for the last 5 or 6 years, we've had Mr. Liston, Mr. Miller, I guess Mr. Kostecki was interim, one here for a year. Now we're going to another interim. And then hopefully we get a permanent. One thing I would hope is that going forward, we would adhere to the stated qualifications that are in the code book. I mean, anybody can look. I would hope that there is full transparency. I would hope that there is an attempt to get the best qualified available person. The one issue or question I had is, you know, we're going to hire an interim until January 31st. The first question I had, what's going to happen on day 31? Okay. This is obviously tabled. I'm not sure what you're tabling until the 31st, or reorg. But I would just hope that we try to get the best person, like I said, advertise. You're not going to do this in 30 days. You're going to need a few people, whoever does the interviews. And I just hope that we have full transparency, get the best available person, because, you know, we're kind of, it's a matter of opinion, but we're kind of spiraling out of control around here. It's unfortunate. You know, a lot of us sitting in this room, we've lived here all our lives, and even the people who've come later on, you know, the taxpayers and residents and voters don't deserve, or we deserve full transparency. We need the best people. So I just hope that, you know, we sort of come to our senses and follow that path. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thelma Witherspoon, committee woman-elect. I would just like to know who is in charge until that takes place, that we have an interim business administrator, because I think that the employees have the right to know who they go to. I don't know if the committee can answer that question right now, but it needs to be someone that is in charge until that takes place, because there's still things that are going on and things that need to be answered, you know, questions or stuff that needs to be brought. We have an agenda, we have stuff that's coming up. And normally it goes through the business administrator. So, who is in charge?
That's a great question, Ms. Witherspoon. Thank you for asking. We spent quite a sufficient amount of time dressing down the old administrator till we finally voted him out a couple weeks ago with no forward plan for who we were going to put in. Unfortunately, the forward plan that they were using was a person that in the last go-round didn't meet the qualifications. So when this meeting was called, I specifically asked for a job description and a resume so that I could come in and vote in the positive or the affirmative today. And in absence of any of that being sent to me, we find ourselves yet again without another administrator until January 3rd. So I'm assuming that committee-elect, Mr. Patali, Ms. Witherspoon, and Mrs. Link, that you all have had some forward thinking on this, and you can tell us, because I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I know when we were in the midst of a very prolonged interview with many candidates, that we did, in fact, change the criteria. Now, I would think that that still stood. I have all the documentation from that experience, but apparently it has to be stated again. Now, I would think that the township clerk has the last word on this if we don't have an administrator in place. But that's my own idea, or I'd have to look that up and to verify that. But I think that decisions have to be made, and the township clerk is the most senior to do that. That is my opinion.
Judy, I was under the impression, and I apologize, I was sitting where Ms. Witherspoon was this time last year. I was not actually on the board. But I was under the impression at the end of that last meeting, they changed the advertisement for the position, but they did not physically change the actual job description. Rita, am I correct in that statement?
The job description, I'm sorry, the advertisement was changed. And that would still be, I would guess, what would be in effect right now.
No, the job description is the job description. They're two separate documents. Did Human Resources come through and change the job description?
The administrator changes job descriptions.
Okay, did the administrator change the
Did
job
Mr.
description?
Kostecki change the job description? I don't know.
Well, we need to find that job description if it's been changed, and if it hasn't, then committee needs to change the job description, and then you can hire the person you want. Or you
Well,
can
we had
use the job
already
description
done
and
that.
qualify the
We
hiring person.
already, by vote, had done that, Sue.
I thought we had
We had
two.
changed.
Judy, I thought we had
changed
two.
that.
I thought we had two.
I'll go back and take a look at that, but we had changed that.
That's why I asked for it as soon as this meeting was called. I wanted the job description and the resume, and I'm stunned that we didn't get either.
There is no job description for an acting township administrator.
I would think it would have the same qualifications as one that was doing the job.
The public portion
Well-
is still open.
We looked hard and long, and we hired an administrator who we felt could do the job. But he chose to accept another job at the same time, simultaneously, not to my knowledge, and was trying to do the administration for two different communities. So that's what led to his demise. Now, we have let him go without cause.
No.
But this is, now we're in a predicament where we do not have an administrator. And to my knowledge, when we listed the job description, that it precluded that it also said had equivalent experience. Now, I'll go back and take a look at it, but I know the candidate that we were considering today had equivalent experience.
Judy, I would have thought if we would have changed the job description, it would have come before a committee for a vote. That even if somebody had changed it, we would have a record of committee on vote for a job description for the lead administrator for a $27 million operation. And we didn't vote on it.
We did.
We voted to change the advertisement. We did not vote to change the job description.
Well,
That was my clarity, and that's why I was kind of surprised that
okay,
back and
all right.
readdressing this.
But when we changed the description, we also put it out there for other people to make application, we had about, 16 people.
I know it's confusing, but there are two separate documents that administrative jobs should have been changed at the administrative level when it was voted, but I was under the impression when they voted to change the advertisement, so we
Well-
wouldn't get sued.
Well, let's go back to the minutes then, but right now we're not solving the problem. The problem is who is the last word, at this present time.
at this
until
point-
we,
At this
That's
point, you
the
have two
point.
female candidates that are both qualified to do the
well,
interim
I don't
job.
recall the two, well, I'm going to look back at the, when we made our selection, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't recall that the female candidates were in the top group. So it'll deserve some, study on this. I mean, we all feel as though there is qualifications and then there is qualifications, but it just doesn't always select the best person for the job, as we found out.
Then I suggest you wait until January 3rd, table the discussion, and you guys, under your new regime, can duke it out and figure out what you want. But under the current regime, it's not going to change because we're not following protocol.
Well, who is the last word? The top administrator, the top person in our Hamilton Township is the township clerk.
No, I don't mean to speak up, but no, it is not me. I'm not acting administrator.
If I can provide some clarification, perhaps,
Yes,
that might help.
Judy, I don't know if you can see, but our solicitor is here, and he'd like to
Okay.
speak.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Good evening, ma'am. This is
Oh, can you talk
Kevin-
right into that microphone, please, Kevin?
Of course. Good evening, ma'am. This is Kevin Balistreri. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Hankin Sandman, Palladino, Weintraub, and Bell, and I'm standing in for Robert Sandman this evening. In preparation for this meeting, I did look at Chapter 60 of the Code of the Township of Hamilton, which provides some guidance in this situation. Unfortunately, it does not provide a specific process for appointment of an acting administrator. It's silent in that regard. Other neighboring municipalities do have some language in their ordinances that we might want to consider adopting something similar to resolve these sorts of disputes in the future. What I can tell you is that Chapter 60 creates the position of Township Administrator and provides a process for the appointment of that office. It also provides a process for the removal of that office, which happened at the last meeting. Section 60-33 discusses the qualifications that are to be considered. It provides that the Township Administrator shall be chosen on the basis of his or her executive and administrative abilities and qualifications, with special regard as to education, training, and experience in governmental affairs. That is the totality of the guidance from the ordinance. I believe the description is something separate and apart, which is drafted probably by the former Township Administrator. It does provide in Section 60-34, entitled Vacancy, that any vacancy in the position of Township Administrator shall be filled by appointment of the Township Committee, which is what we were going to do this evening, but now that it's been tabled, that will be January 3rd. It also provides a process for the vote. It's to be a majority vote on a roll call. So it also sets forth a number of powers and duties that the Township Administrator possesses. Obviously, that's what some of the public commentary has been about tonight. There's nothing requiring the board to act on it this evening. I think it's been tabled, and the board can vote as they see fit at the next meeting on January 3rd in accordance with Chapter 60 of the Code of the Township of Hamilton.
Okay, so we'll make sure that everyone has that code in detail before voting to have an interim administrator.
I'd be happy to provide a copy to the township clerk, and obviously, I think the board has access to its own code, but I can circulate that if that would be helpful as well.
I really would like to see the job description and the resumes of the people that we're considering. I mean, we got 3 here. Let's, we know we have 2 that are qualified. We have a 3rd one that we're considering. I'd like to see all 3. I'm trying to be as fair as I can about this, but I'm just not going to go shotgun on one on a whim.
Understood, Councilwoman. I can only speak as to the process, not as to the potential
I totally
candidates.
understand.
But we'll have a little time between now and the next meeting. The board can confer with any information they deem necessary, and I would expect that at the next meeting, You can have a proper hearing in accordance with Chapter 60 of the code to resolve this issue, but I would note that the board does have an obligation to fill that vacancy, and that probably should be done sooner rather than later, in accordance with our own code.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay, that's where we stand.
Mr.
Okay.
Stry is waiting to speak.
So I understand
Please
there
go
is,
ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Strawn.
Sorry. Try again.
hello,
Yeah, go ahead. Bruce is going to speak, please.
And could you state your name for the record?
Bruce Stry for the record. So I understand there is no mechanism to appoint a interim, okay? I am more interested in the permanent, okay? So, as stated, there's not a real detailed qualification list, however, or statement. However, if you look up qualifications for pretty much every position in the township, there is a list of qualifications and education, experience, and whatever. But that has been established. It may not be in what you were speaking about, but it is a public record, and it has been agreed to by someone, either a previous administrator or a township committee or someone. But it is a public record, and that's the stated qualifications and requirements. So I would just hope that, and it seems to me, it sounds like there were some deviations or amendments or something that changed the actual qualifications. They were amended for the advertisement of the last meeting. I don't know, but that's what it sounds like. So I just would like to reiterate what I said before, is that everyone is on board, especially the public, when it comes time to what we're looking for, what we're advertising, the qualifications we're asking for, and that we're assured that when the applicants and the public won't see all of the applicants, we'll just see the one that gets ultimately appointed or hired, then their resume and qualifications are available to the public, okay? So I'm just hoping that this is open to everybody, it's fair, and hopefully we can get the best, again, the best qualified person, that we aren't going through this next year. Because, we've been through 4 or 5 in the last several years. It's unfair to everyone that works for the township, professionals, taxpayers, everybody. So I think we just need complete transparency to get the best person. So good luck with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. It was an arduous task to interview several candidates, and we did it with utmost transparency.
Nelson Gaskell would like to speak.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
Nelson Gaskell. I just want to say, this should be a lesson for all of us, and even those of us in the past, that there has to be some kind of chain of command. If something dramatically happens to the administrator, it should be laid down in writing who's in charge and how, whether it's be I don't know, how we want to word that, you can get that from other places, but there must be something.
You're talking
God
about a
forbid
deputy
something happens to the
administrator.
administrator.
You're talking about the deputy administrator
Yeah,
position.
whatever.
We actually have one.
Who's that?
Cynthia Lindsay.
I didn't know that.
No,
I didn't know that.
no,
I didn't know.
no, she is not a deputy administrator. She was considered, but she was not named a deputy administrator. Okay, any other,
Okay, but that's just
any
my-
other
my-
comment?
I have something to read, please, if everybody here is done. Nobody else from the public here? I have something, all right, well, don't let me forget, I have something I have to read. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just learned that we have a deputy administrator.
We
Is
do
that true?
not.
We do not.
We do not,
We
okay.
do not. We do not have a deputy administrator.
No, we don't even have the, it's not even in the ordinance. It would have to be created. All right, I'm reading something from Mr. Percy, asked me to read something because he could not be here today. So we'll see if I
Okay.
get through this. I cried the first time I read it, so let's see. Rita, I never got to finish my statement at the end of my original comments due to the lack of time. Can what I was going to say be added during public comment at the end of the special meeting on December 27th? Yes, Mr. Percy. Several employees I wanted to mention. Terry in construction for keeping track of me on the Emergency Services Advisory Board. Illness prevented me from attending these past many months. Special recognition to Debbie and all those in planning and zoning. It is a very complex office and is handled very well. Hope it continues to do well. Best of the holiday season to all. Many thanks to Bill Johnson, an appointee back during my time on committee, for keeping our values up to date. To Renee, our super efficient bill collector, well done. Our end of year's numbers always look good. That helps to keep our rate in line. To you and Jane and Jessica in your office for the efficient handling of all that legal stuff. I have always felt comfortable asking questions of your people and getting a good answer. However, this year, I am not asking to be appointed to anything. I have medically aged out, but it has been a privilege to serve. It goes without saying that Chief Greg and Public Works Director Brett are doing a great job of keeping our streets and neighborhoods safe and viable at all times. Their doors are always open, thank you. To former Township Committee member Charles Pritchard, once a friend, always a friend, one of my first appointments to a board, and he has been that consummate, honest politician. He is a wonderful person. Finally, to a former Township Committee member, Aline Dix, a lady for whose love of this township has no bounds. She would maybe remember our first meeting, perhaps back in the late 50s. It was a snowy Sunday morning that there came a knock on my parents' front door on Route 40 in Laureldale. I answered the door and found this mother and two shivering young girls standing in the cold. Car had broken down across the street, and they wanted to make some phone calls. That was our first meeting, and over the years, Aline has become a great friend. Wonder how much of that Aline would remember. Thank you to all. Happy holidays from Sidewalk Jack, John Percy. Thank you for letting me read that. Is there anybody else from the public?
Make a motion to
Very
close
good.
public comment.
Motion to close by Mr. Patali,
Second.
second by Judy Link. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I need somebody to make it
Motion
other
to
than me.
adjourn.
I'll
Carl
second.
I
Patali.
make a motion to adjourn.
All right. It is 5:34, and we are adjourned.